Hello and welcome. Thank you for joining us today. This is 2026 Marketing Trends Shaping Financial Advisor Growth. Financial firms are looking to accelerate their organic growth with more personalization, better consistency, faster response times, while navigating tighter compliance oversight. At the same time, teams are stretched thin. Advisors are busy engaging with prospects and clients. Staff are juggling competing priorities. People are busy. The firms pulling ahead in 2026 aren't just doing more marketing, they're doing smarter marketing, understanding what drives engagement, doubling down on what's working, and building systems that make growth scalable. They're using automation, AI, data, smarter workflows to create repeatable engines for organic growth. My name is Graham Turner. I'm the president of Snappy Kraken, and today we are talking with firms who are doing exactly that. So let's get started by getting to know everyone on our panel. Kevin, let's start with you. Can you briefly introduce yourself and share one marketing system or initiative you've implemented in your practice that has helped generate more client conversations?
I'm Kevin Lonergan. I guess founded and the owner of Pacific Wealth Management Group. We're in the process of actually changing the name, but um, there's myself and there's 10 other advisors, and we've been together for a long time. We've been out in the independent world for 5 years total, or 6 years now, I guess, total. Um, and One of the, I guess, systems, and it's not so much a system, right? But I think it is. I think it is one of the things that has helped a lot in our implementing Snappy Kraken, and that is we actually have at least monthly meetings to discuss Snappy Kraken. The other thing that we do is I have the advisors register and join into the various webinars that occur during the month. So what I want to do is keep Snappy Kraken front of mind for everyone, so that they're learning and thinking about it on a regular basis. And I think that's had a really meaningful impact on our growth, actually, because that was directly correlated to getting people more involved in Snappy Kraken. Um, and so that would be what I would leave people with is, get as much exposure as possible and have it front of mind as much as possible. And I think everything else will kind of fall into place a little bit once you get in the habit. And I think that's really important just to have the habit. So there you go.
Consistency is incredibly important, and Kevin was not paid to say any of that. Okay, I'm going to move over to Carlin. Carlin, can you introduce yourself and same question, share one marketing initiative you've helped firms implement recently that improved how they connect with the right prospects?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Carlin. I work with Luzon Media. We work with financial advisors just like Kevin. So we work with financial advisors all across the United States that are independent. I come with a little bit of a unique background working at a marketing agency. I actually have been in the industry for 16 years and I actually started out on the compliance side. So I kind of come with both sides of the hat of from a marketing perspective, have been doing it for 7 years now. And so one thing that we have implemented, so Graham and I started working together last fall, but we originally launched in Snappy Kraken available to our advisors and really integrating with it in our CRM system, all of our marketing campaigns. So that's been a huge value that we launched starting in January. So getting a lot of users into the system and the training part of it's been phenomenal, but just even incorporating a marketing system has been huge for us.
Love that. Thank you, Carlin. And last but certainly not least, Dan, you oversee business development, marketing, and insurance operations over at CG Financial. Can you tell us a little bit more about your role? Because that's quite a few different entities. And same question, one system or one initiative that your firm has implemented recently.
Hey, thank you, Graham, and welcome to everybody out in webinar land. My name is Dan with CG Financial. We have three different business units. We have a wealth management, the foundation of our business, And then over the years, we also entered into the insurance vertical. And then we also have an advisor network business. Because of my background, I'm responsible for the insurance vertical, but I'm also responsible for marketing and business development for all three of the businesses. One thing that is not necessarily new, but we've modified it that is working really well for us. We do a lot of community education with our advisors and our insurance agents. And we were lacking what I would call the digital complement to that, the marketing, the outreach, the follow-up. And since rolling out Snappy, we've connected that to all of our community events. And it's really given us the one-two punch to have very consistent on purpose follow up, engagement, education with our attendees. So we were doing well with our community engagements, but the follow up and the digital connection is making it better and it's improving our results. That's what I would throw out as something recent that we've changed.
Fantastic. I appreciate it. And thank you so much to all three of you for agreeing to be here with me today. If you're in the audience and you haven't picked up on it, Kevin, Dan, and Carlin are all existing Snappy Kraken clients who have rolled out or in the process of rolling out our platform for their advisors. So don't take my word for it. You're going to hear directly from them some of the interesting and innovative things that they're doing in addition to Snappy Kraken and all the great knowledge and expertise that they have. So thank you again for being here today. We are going to ask a question for everyone in our audience right now. And so we're going to go ahead and launch this poll. The question is, if you were to analyze your marketing system in terms of driving growth, how would you rate your current system on a scale of 1 to 10? That question is now live. I'm seeing a couple of responses come in. Three, a couple of fives, a seven. So we're going to let this run for a little bit, and then we're going to check back in on these results in a second. A 10. Wow, that's great. All right, first topic we are talking about here today is marketing as a system. And so one of the biggest shifts we're seeing is firms moving away from just sending out campaigns and towards more holistic, repeatable marketing systems that drive growth. And so, what I really want to understand from the three of you is when you realize what was that aha moment that marketing needed to be more of a system and less of just disparate actions. And so, Carlin, I'm going to start with you. From a marketing strategy perspective, what did you see as the turning point when firms recognize that marketing does need to be a system and operate like a system and that it needs to be scalable as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So with campaigns usually are driving a spike, which are always great. But one of the things is we're working with independent offices. And so they're trying to scale their business. And so if you're doing a campaign, how are you going to do it, be able to do it repeatable? And when you're building within a marketing system, that's when you're going to be able to do that. You're able to scale your business when you can create a campaign, create the process, create a system. And so Dan mentioned it too, is like, how do you build everything in one campaign, one system? Within Snappy Kraken, you have the ability to tie email campaigns to social, and it can all be in one system. And so it allows you to not just have a campaign. And a lot of times we all do it, right? We all get busy and you don't know when the campaign runs. When's the next campaign going to start? But if you're in a marketing system, you can see that right at a glance. You guys have a great calendar view in there. So when you're running a campaign, you can jump in there, look at the calendar. You can see when are your emails going out? When are the socials going out? You can see when that campaign's about to end, start strategizing when is the next campaign going to be running. And with campaigns as well, then you can tie in as well as the nurturing part of it too. Then what's going to follow from that campaign? Because if somebody's interacting with a campaign, they're going to want to see multiple interactions from you to really kind of drive that business. So being in a marketing system is going to give that holistic view to you guys. And that's why we really like the system itself is campaigns are great, but being able to be repeatable. And then if you know what campaigns are working for you, you can build that out and then you can repeat that campaign. It doesn't have to be the same topic. You can switch the topic itself, but it can all have the same process and flows. So that's what the value of a marketing system is how do you scale a business and be repeatable and not always starting from scratch day one, because that takes time.
And I know obviously your background fairly extensively, and you're doing this at scale. And how many advisors would you say that you're working with, on an ongoing basis right now?
Yeah, so our team itself, so we have about I mean, we have a large office, but on ourselves, I would say about 400 offices. So me myself, I'm about 50 offices that I'm really hands-on with, and so it's a lot of coaching calls. And so it's when it's coaching calls, it's how do we get in the system and how do we build it. So it allows us even to scale from a marketing side using this system so that we can have the coaching sides, build the campaigns, coach our advisors so that then they can also run them on themselves as well.
So you're thinking about this massively at scale, right? You can't be doing one-off activities or necessarily bespoke campaigns across 400 different offices. So I think the scalability and the systemization that you have implemented at Luson and Gradient makes a lot of sense. So taking it from that 400 office view, I'm going to zoom in now on Kevin for a second. So Kevin, you own and operate your own practice from
Mhm.
the advisor's perspective, how has your thinking about marketing evolved over time? And when did it become clear to you that growth required more structure rather than just kind of one-off or occasional outreach?
Yeah, that's a good question because what's kind of interesting is um, the group of people I work with, including myself, we came from a world where we actually had, um, I want to say marketing, there was marketing in place, but we actually had access to leads that were fed through a system with a very large company, right? And so there was always people for everybody to call. And but it was, the old days, banging out calls to people. Hopefully, you get a hold of someone. Um, and when we made this move, the first thing we had was a lot of data, and we didn't have a place to do anything with it. Um, and so I also know that we couldn't just bang out cold calls off the data we had. And so, um, and the other was we made a broker dealer switch 3 years in and came to LPL, right? So we went from one broker dealer to LPL that, we moved clients twice in a short period of time. And that was kind of an issue. So I'm giving you some context around this because to answer your question. Um, so actually what happened was right after we made the move, LPL had their focus conference and we attended that. And I went to, marketing thing that was actually Snappy Kraken. And because I was looking for something that would be repeatable, simplified, um, and would allow us to have scale um, in a short period of time. And I needed that, and we didn't have that prior to that point. And so I was getting concerned about that. Couldn't afford to hire a marketing person full time because we're in the San Francisco Bay Area. That's a very expensive endeavor. And so what happened was I went to that meeting, and that was my aha. Was sitting in that meeting, I went, this actually is exactly what I was thinking of, not knowing that it actually existed. Um, and so what it allowed me to do at that point was then start thinking about how to be able to then implement it and grow to scale using the system. I think that there are so many benefits to Snappy Kraken outside of just the automation, right? I mean, I think one of the big things that I think, and these my other cohorts here is, I have a smaller group of people, but I still, they all want to have a unique message of their own. Their practices are all similar, but they have unique ways they do their business, right? And they want the message that they send out or how they communicate to their clients to be unique to them. And so the Snappy Kraken systems allows them to make it unique to them, but also through the library of content that exists. I mean, there may be weeks or days where they send the exact same content out to people, me included, right? When I say that we, I mean they. We included all send maybe the same one in any given week with, like example, all the things going on in the market right now. And there are very timely, you know, um, emails that can go out to your clients with that, right? But then there's campaigns or there's nurturing that can go on at the same time that are completely unrelated to that, but they can, you know, make it unique to them and what that message they want that message to be. And I think that, in all of that, the uniqueness of the content, the repeatability, the fact that it's connected to compliance, we don't have to do any of that stuff, right? I get everything I need, we need, uh, within that system and be able to make it unique for each different person, right? And that makes it just worth its weight in gold. So that would be how I answer that.
That's fantastic. I appreciate that. And I think it's always helpful to have the advisor's voice on these types of things because you're experiencing the day to day, you're using the platform, you're answering the calls, you're making the calls, you're answering the emails. And so for someone like myself, it's always very helpful to litmus test what we're building, what we've already built against folks like yourself. And it's great to hear that you've experienced that scalability and the repeatability rather than just doing these one-off touch points. I'm going to transition over to Dan for a second. So, Dan, you've been in this industry for a minute. You've seen a couple evolutions and maybe a couple revolutions in your time. What can you say about what you've seen, I think, overall in the industry in terms of the shifts towards data and scalability and repeatability and not necessarily just cold call lists? But then also in your own firm, shifting from that world into a more integrated system that connects marketing, advisor outreach, and follow up. How would you best kind of contextualize the shift that you've seen?
This is a legit topic, right? So I have been doing this for a minute, and when you run across folks that say, "Yeah, I'm doing this marketing, it's not working. I tried this campaign, it's not working. I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that." When you get under the hood with those folks, what you typically find is they're very seasonal or episodic. They're in the mood to do it, so they swing the bat. So a period of time goes by, they don't do it, and then they maybe come back to it. And it doesn't work, right? It can't be seasonal, it can't be episodic. I think you need to be on purpose with it and you need to be consistent with it. And if you're not on purpose with it, it gets lost. And then sometimes, your internal strategic partners, like sometimes the finance people, they look at marketing and they think we're the arts and crafts department, but they want the growth from our department. And what I've learned over the years is you've got to be diligent, you've got to be committed to it, and you've got to be in a mindset that understands you can't do it 1 month stop and then get back into it because you're just not going to get the results. It's a numbers game at the end of the day. And I think you have to rely on the data. The other thing I would say is try to make it actionable. So we set up our systems to where it needs involvement and people have to do things to get the best result. And if you hold those people accountable to their role in the automated process, I think the combination of those two things, to include being very consistent with it, those are the things that will help you end up getting positive results over time.
You hit on one of the follow-ups that I wanted to ask. And just before I ask it, poll results are in, and I'll share these so everyone can see them. But the vast majority of folks, or the majority, are trending somewhere between a 2 and a 5. So it means that you're not really seeing the effectiveness of the marketing system that you have in place right now, which leads me to my next question, or follow-up question for you, Dan. What are some of the misconceptions that you've seen as this industry has evolved? So, some of the conversations I have with Sampi Kraken prospects or even existing clients is I hired you guys, or I'm thinking about hiring you guys so that you guys can come in, build the system, and it's just going to work in the background. What you just mentioned is having actionable touch points for folks at CG so that they're involved in the process. How do you maybe reconcile those two different concepts or ideas?
Data. So, we're evolving over time to a data lake environment. I have a bias that the best marketing and the best marketing content delivered to the wrong audience can actually do more harm than good. And we had so much data, we have so much data, in different places, CRMs, trading platforms, people's email, marketing systems, and all that data individually, if it's not connected, you lose really the accuracy of it. And so, look, we're not there yet, but we will get to a place where every data point of every unit and every touch point goes to one spot. And that helps us inform what the people, well, I say people, what the segment. So we're very segmented. We have a wealth division and we have a private wealth division, and our content is very specific to those audiences. So being able to cobble together the things that make the most sense from a data perspective of what these people like, and then choose the content that aligns to those desires, it works. And when you say and when you ask, how do you know it works, rather than imagining that it works, is data, like hit rate. So when we do the right things with the right people at the right time, we experience a 50 to 55% open rate, an engagement rate, and follow-up rate. And I think if you compare that to the industry of 15 to 20%, those are real numbers. And then it's all a funnel from there. It's all a math exercise from there on how we ultimately get in front of these people. But getting that one source of truth, data is so important. It's the most valuable thing that we have. Aggregating everything and making that actionable is really starting to pay dividends for us.
It's a very, very well thought out answer. I expected nothing less. One of the things that you mentioned is having that idea of what success is. And I think that's incredibly important for everybody who's an audience member on this call. Obviously, growth rate and organic growth is the name of the game. But how are we going to measure the effectiveness of your marketing to understand what the leading indicators are of your growth rate? And so those are some of my favorite conversations to have because it's a discovery exercise, it's a mapping exercise, it's bringing the real data of what we've experienced as a marketing company and as a technical company to folks like yourself and say, hey, here's what we're seeing. Does that kind of jive with what you're seeing? And those are some of the best conversations to have. So now that we have our system in place and we're relatively happy with the infrastructure, the next challenge becomes deciding who to focus on and how to reach them effectively. So we talked about segmentation a little bit. We're going to get into the big hairy topic of AI and data and personalization at scale. And what we're seeing is the most effective firms are using data to reach the right people with the right message and not sending out generic campaigns to everyone. I think what you just touched on. And so I'm going to come back to you for a second, Dan, and I want to understand from a firm leadership perspective, go a level deeper on how using that data more effectively changes the way that you operate. What are some of the segments that you're thinking about? How are you marrying the content against those segments? And then how are you understanding what's working and what's not working?
Yeah, sure, no problem. So I won't go too deep into the segments, but I will cover the wealth segment and the private wealth segment. So we figured out not too long ago that we need to figure out how do we get at these next generation investors. Of all the whatever data set you believe, there's trillions of dollars changing hands. We're not unique in the fact that our private wealth people, they're aging out. Like, you don't want to talk about age, but let's just be realistic. People are aging out, and those people that are aging out are spending their assets. And so as they spend their assets, your AUM goes down. And so we're sort of sober, eyes wide open till we got to figure out this next generation. Now, they may not have $1 million today. They may not have $2 million today, but we believe that we can predict that they will, based on data and based on their behaviors, that one day they are going to be their ideal client. So we try to land the plane in a place that says, what do they want to hear? We know what their attributes are. We know what their behaviors are. How do we pick the content that aligns to them? For example, here's what you wouldn't do. You wouldn't want to send content to someone that's building their investment future, high net worth stuff where they're offended by it. And we were a little guilty of that. We were saying, look, one size fits all. This is great content. Let's try to inspire people. And it just wasn't hitting. So getting into the data lake elements that give us indication of what their investable assets would be, and then choosing lifestyle content, financial content, risk content, tax content that resonates with those people. And again, I don't want to oversell it, but the indications and the early read, the success that we're getting is really, really helping us. And we've had people that meet with us ultimately actually proactively say, I really like how you communicate with me. I like how you educate with me, and it makes me feel more engaged with your brand. So I think it's sort of a two bank pool shot, which is hard, but it's taking the information that you have and being willing to take that next extra step to filter it down to where you're only sending things that make sense to those individuals. And again, when it comes to open rate and engagement, it's working with us so far. Long way to go, but it's working.
I appreciate that and very much agree and endorse all the points you just made. Uh, as I was listening to you talk, there's also a really interesting conversation happening in the chat. And for anybody in the audience, if you do have any questions for myself or any of the panelists, please add that in the Q&A function, and we'll be sure to answer those off. But I just want to acknowledge, Brett, you asked a really important question. I'm going to tee my co-host up to answer that in the next section. Just wanted to make sure that you didn't think I forgot about you. So taking the data and taking the personalization and taking the segmentation that Dan just talked about, bringing that into the active advisor's perspective. Kevin, you and your team are directly speaking with prospects and clients every single day. And obviously, you're leveraging Sappy Kraken as part of your marketing suite. But what have you seen work when it comes to using more targeted outreach to move prospects from initial interest to real conversation? So, really focusing on that prospecting funnel. How are you thinking about segmentation and content and outreach?
Yeah, that's a great question. Uh, so it's kind of a two-prong approach, right? So we have our existing clients, and that prong is approached completely different from the prospects, right? And so, when, as I mentioned earlier, I have a lot of data, and I have very specific data actually, with lots of information on it. But I also knew that it was a little bit not current. So, I mean, I can tell you there are lots of vendors out there that will give you updated data. They'll enrich your data for you at a relatively affordable price. Um, so that was kind of the first thing, but kind of how the approach is, what we've done is the campaigns we do to our existing clients are very specific to um, value, right? So what is the value for them? What is our messages? What is the value in our message? Probably the best way to put it to them, and so that they feel like they're getting something more than once, twice, or three times, four times a year meetings where they talk to an advisor through Zoom. There's got to be something in between, and the value can be newsletters, it can be information, it can be, you know, here's five things you should be aware of, whatever the message might be, but it's additional value to them, right? Um, then on the cold prospect side, then that is definitely more, long-term nurturing, and that message is completely different, and that's where that data becomes funneling, being very specific in who the message is to, and what is specific to that marketplace. And in where we live, here in the Bay Area, right, we're in the middle of the Silicon Valley and biotech, right? So we're around a lot of people with a lot of wealth and a lot of choices. And so we have to be able to get to those people, and we've had success with that, through being very specific in our message to them, using different types of campaigns within the Snappy Kraken system. Um, but and I kind of jumping back a little bit to the client part. One of the things that has helped us with the growth dramatically outside of nurturing is with our existing clients is the messaging to them isn't necessarily give us referrals, but the advisor's always front of mind with them through the message, sending out campaigns to them on a regular basis. And the referrals and the growth off of referrals of our AUM has been dramatic off of just being front of mind to the clients because they're at work all day. We have lots of clients who work in the Silicon Valley who are in biotech, and that's all they do is work, right? So that's the only people that are around all the time. So those people talk and they ask each other, and then we get calls, or they have parents who are getting older in life and they become their caretakers, or they become their where they're now helping their parents, right? And so they're looking for an advisor to help them. So now we're acquiring clients to help them with the transition of their parents down to them, but they're already our client, right? So we've gotten a lot of cases out or clients just through that, but I think the referrals, just being front of mind for clients, has been huge for us. And I would tell people just that alone will grow your AUM. I mean, our growth in AUM has been, in 3 years at LPL, 100%, 100%, 75% for the 3 years. So it's been huge. I mean, relative to my cohorts here on the call, Dan and Carlin, I mean, we're not as big as them by any stretch, but we still manage a pretty sizable amount of assets for the number of people that we do have. So I would say, and that has come a lot from, it has come, I would directly a result of using SnappyCracken, definitely.
Love that. Tremendous growth rates, by the way. That's out of this world. There is a follow-up question for Kevin, which is from Erica. Where do you source your data?
Oh, that's a good question. So there was a lot of data I had already, so I can't say that I sourced it. Just had a lot to begin with. Um, and I'm not, you have to be very picky with if you're going to go to a vendor to buy data, right? And I would generally say my experience with that has been, unfortunately, that if you really want the good data, you're going to pay for it. Um, it's not cheap. The quality data is not cheap. And I'll give an example, not necessarily a vendor, but they do sell it. So I just haven't bought it from them. Is Experian, right? The credit company, right? I mean, I use them to enrich data because everybody has a credit report. Everybody's information is there, right? Um, and they're very, very helpful, very useful in that they're also not cheap, right? But the information is incredibly accurate. And so it has really helped me. That's another investment I made in that is using them to enrich my data, but also I do know that they source data as well, right? So I would say they would probably be a good vendor for that. I don't want to say specifically any specific company because I could be completely wrong. And I think that marketplace changes all the time. But I will say that you're probably best off, unfortunately, or fortunately, if you pay a little extra, you're going to get something of much better quality if you're just looking for a lead source.
I think that is true of almost anything. Is you pay a little bit more and you get a little bit better quality. Appreciate the detail there, Kevin. Carlin, I haven't forgotten about you. I promise. Moving into from a marketing strategy perspective, talk to me a little bit about effective segmentation and helping firms move beyond generic messaging and creating marketing that at the end of the day feels more relevant and personal. And I'm going to give you the extra hard version of this question because there was a great question that came through the chat on the different types of campaigns. And so I know inside baseball, we talked a lot about content. I know Luson's developing your own content as well as using ours. If you could maybe touch on Elizabeth's question around interactive campaigns versus more static campaigns, and any way that you could weave that into the initial question I asked you would be much appreciated.
We'll see if I can hit it all in one. So yeah, how do we focus on, like your first kind of the first part of the question is making the content unique the advisor itself. And how do we make it personalized? Because I mean, in any form of marketing right now, you're seeing that's what's driving the best results is that personal connection and not just kind of more of a generic type messaging. And so we did a lot of research on different marketing platforms. And so Snappy Kraken, one of the things is it allows every one of our advisors to tailor that marketing still to their voice. And so that was really important to us when we were researching marketing platforms because some maybe you're limited on what you can edit. And so that's one thing that was really important for us when we were looking at platforms because we're looking at a kind of a handful of different offices and they're all independent. So from a marketing perspective, what our team really focuses on is we like to just like Kevin does with his prospects is they do fact and feeling. We really like to do fact and feeling with our advisors to understand their voice, their target audience, their branding, because then we can build it in their Snappy Kraken advisor profile. So then when we're doing campaigns, it is their voice, it is their brand, it is their best messaging. So that's really where we're finding the value is that we're not just finding a campaign that's in there and sending as is. We're able to take the campaign that's either created by us here at Luson or the Snappy Cracking content, but tailoring it to every one of our clients and their unique brand and messaging. And so that's really important for us is how do we help that side of it from a marketing perspective? Because I know AI, you kind of mentioned AI at the beginning, like AI is so good and so great and we use it everywhere. But if you're using AI from building your voice, it's not going to be your unique voice. So that's what we like to do is figure out what is their unique voice and build it into telling that unique voice for them through the marketing platform. And so how do we do that then within other campaigns? That's the really cool thing within the side of it. So Snappy Kraken from a perspective is we here at Luson, we have a ton of campaigns and marketing systems that we can build in that platform to make available for our clients. But they will also get the Snappy Kraken content available as well. And so when we're looking at the different type of campaigns, you have birthday automations. There's campaigns that just everybody should be doing. And so those are types of campaigns that we always are running because those are the nurturing ones. Those are the ones to stay in front of clients. And so we're having campaigns that you want to be sending out that are birthday automations. That's all syncing and integrated. So it's helping, we'll kind of get into that later down, I think some questions you have. But we have those types of campaigns. And then the other type of campaigns is if you have seminars, you also can do types of campaigns that are post-seminar campaigns, and you can segment your audience of what type of campaign this is. If your campaign is, so next month is Social Security Awareness Month, you can make sure that content that is going out to the prospects that attended that event is tied to that specific campaign. So you can segment your target audience by if they're attending seminars itself, what type of campaigns should go to those prospects. Because if they came to your event, they're probably interested in that topic. So that's where we can segment our target audience there with campaigns. And then also knowing that Snappy Kraken does time sensitive information, but also what's coming up in that particular month. If you're segmenting this audience and maybe they attended a Social Security seminar 6 months ago, that is still a campaign to still send to them next month in April. Well, let's say a few days, right? So you're still then segmenting those target audience in that perspective. So there's a ton of different campaigns that you can build out around your seminar, your events, but then time into nurturing campaigns like Social Security Awareness Month and things like that as well.
That's right. You nailed it. And Derek asked a question about 10 minutes ago now on how you are all leveraging SAPI's dynamic groups feature. So you just heard a completely relevant example there. So if I was to configure your platform for you, Carlin, knowing that one of the things you wanted to do was post-event follow-up, then what I would do is filter dynamic lead source, be able to bring in if there's particular age or AUM that you want to target. That's a very practical, real world example. There's a follow up question for you, Carlin, from Elizabeth in the chat. Carlin, for the fact and feeling, have you seen success in having a short video email from the specific advisor rather than a regular email from the advisor?
100%. Video is been huge in a marketing, especially a lot of advisors have moved to more digital and virtual space. And so especially I know Kevin talked a little bit about sourcing and leads. If you are sourcing leads itself, they don't know you yet. They don't know your brand yet. So when you are incorporating video, and you are starting your campaigns to those leads that know nothing about you, building that personal connection is huge. We are still in an office type space, and so I'm a big in person, but also personal connection. You can definitely do it virtual, and you can do it virtual, and it's going to be those short videos. So now you're building that relationship in that through video. So highly recommend video itself because it really starts to building that relationship. And for anybody that has done the old school dinner seminars, like how did you build that relationship? It was the face-to-face interaction. So you can still do that. And then you're going to do that in a nurturing way so that they can start to get to know you, see your face, your brand, your story. And I think that's a huge value to marketing.
Personal connection videos in your library now.
Yeah.
All right. So now that you have the data, now that you have the system, the infrastructure, we're able then to personalize, segment, tailor the right message to the right audience. Last piece of the puzzle here is automation and speed to lead. So speed and follow up matter just as much as doing the other two components. And what we're consistently hearing is that responsiveness can make or break growth opportunities. Prospects who enter your marketing funnel have a timely need or a question that they want to address. The speed of engagement can make or break your ability to land that prospect. And so, Kevin, I'm interested to hear from you. Many advisors receive inbound interest, but can't always respond immediately because they're already engaged with a prospect or a client. How has automation helped ensure that your prospects are engaged quickly? And what difference have you seen that make for your growth?
Yeah, so that's a great question. Again, I think taking a step back a little bit is being back to what I think everybody said at some point in here is being consistent is really important. So one of the things that the advisors do now is there are specific days they'll do the call outs to this people. But I think one of the things that's helped a lot is the fact that when you go on your dashboard, you can actually see who's engaging the most, right? So they're scored. And so you can actually go to, and then those become the hottest ones you would call to, right? Immediately. And then kind of work your way down the list as you need to. Um, and I think that has given us a lot of traction, just knowing that the most engaged people are the ones they must have an interest. And so we've gotten a lot more interaction with our clients that way, or prospects, I should say, the potential prospects. Um, and that has worked really, really well in the growth part of things. Um, I think that the other thing that has happened is um, to your point, you have a busy day and you don't necessarily can't get to them as quickly as possible, right? So the advisors, depending upon the geography, can also work with each other, right? Because we do a lot of cross-pollinating offer advisors with advisors. So because everybody's been around each other for some period of time, they all have relationships with each other. So they can say, hey, would you mind following up on this for me? We'll work on this together, right? I know not everybody has the ability to do that, but I think if you have relationships with other people where you can bring people in that will help you and assist you, that makes a big difference. Because to your point, the time to get to someone is critical to because it's top of mind for the people, right? So being able to connect with them as quickly as possible uh, is critical to that. And I think, um, you know, all the advisors have a day of the week that they do the marketing portion. Then they have at least a day, usually 2 days of the week, where they're making call out to nurturing people. Campaigns or prospects are the most interactive people within their dashboard that particular week. And that has worked really, really well. Um, so those would be the two things I would tell people is have a systemic way of which you go about approaching this, just like the automation that exists within Snappy Kraken. So you need to have a system for yourself on how you're following up on all of that. So
Fantastic point. And so, what Kevin was referencing is our opportunity score to identify the most engaged contacts. And so, every Monday morning in your marketing hub, you get a list of here are the most engaged contacts over the previous week. Ideally, they're in that kind of 90 to 100 range. And then my recommendation is always call them because they're engaging with the content week in, week out, day in, day out. It's incredibly important for them to hear then from an advisor, that they're primed and ready to go. So appreciate that, Kevin, very much so. Um, Moving over to Dan for a second, and I'm also going to try and answer Brett's question in the chat. I love combining questions. So Kevin just highlighted the importance of fast follow-up from the advisor's perspective. Speed to lead and doing it properly, as you know, often requires coordination between marketing, operations, advisors. What have you seen firms do that build systems that support fast response times without creating a massive amount more work, manual work for advisors? And the second part of that, just before you go about thinking about your answer, is lead gen. And so you and I have had many conversations as recently as yesterday about lead gen. And so I'm gonna ask you as well, what have you seen work in conjunction with SnappyCracken for front of the funnel? And so I'm going to start with the response times, and then I'm going to ask you to move over to front of the funnel.
Yeah, so this one, I believe, I'm not going to say it's number one, but it will be up on the list of the next big thing for the industry. And I'll give you an example. So we're in the insurance business. We believe risk is a cornerstone component of our high touch approach with our clients. Got to protect the risk in the household. And insurance is way ahead of wealth management on this subject. For anybody on the line that is ever going to get an insurance quote, if you're on the web, you'll have companies contacting you in 10 or 15 seconds as soon as you start to put your first name in. Now, I get that wealth management is a little bit longer tail. I get that wealth management is a more in-depth process, but we got to figure out, folks, in this industry of how do we get to these people faster that want to reach out and get help from us. And insurance has it figured out. Now, we can do things on website, and we are. So we're starting to lean into when somebody is interacting with you on the website. Maybe they're meeting the team. Maybe they're going to have an appointment with you. You can build functionality where automatic triggers get to somebody. Now, Graham, you said the O word, operations, right? So you got to make sure and watch your P&L. You want to be a profit center, not a cost center. Having people in place to engage with those response, that's another part of solving the problem. But we got to do a better job when somebody needs help. They're in the mindset to want to talk to you. We got to figure out a way through web. Web is one way you can do it today, but there's other solutions out there that we've got to figure out to get back to the consumer when they want to talk to us. On the lead question, that's the secret of the universe, Graham. People have been trying to figure that out for 125, 130 years. One way to do it is as people come to your website. So folks out there that are doing SEO or other types of marketing, that for us is going to be the best lead. So when you talk about lead gen, get the people to come to your website, but you got to be able to operationalize those to make a good outcome from it. And we got a lot of work to do. We're starting to make some progress with it. But if you got 200, 300 people coming to your website, that's about the warmest lead you're going to get. The question you've got to ask yourself is, are you building the bridges? I heard video, right? Video is great. So when someone's on Meet the Team, have a video pop up and maybe have some sort of captivating message that gets somebody interested and build a bridge to get them to the next click of the mouse to get them to want to interact with you. We haven't figured out all the other lead gen avenues, but this is one we're really leaning into of how can we take the people that want to learn more about us, they're in the mood to talk to us. How do you monetize that web traffic from a lead gen standpoint and make sure that you don't lose those people before they leave your website?
I love that. So in my former life, I was a CEO of a website company. And one of the biggest misconceptions I think advisors have is their website is a cost center. And it's just something that they need to have because every other advisor in the world has one. And they don't really think of it as a front of the funnel lead gen source. And so they don't have gated content. They don't have personalized video. They don't have a reason for somebody to enter their contact information and get automatically enrolled in the next happy tracking campaign because they just haven't thought about it in that way. And so the website working together with your email campaigns and your social and your text messages, like that is the secret sauce. And yes, SEO and now AEO, which is AI being able to find your website, increasingly getting market share in terms of search traffic is incredibly important. But the first thing someone's going to do, in Kevin's case, especially when they get referred at the water cooler or probably increasing now on Snapchat and TikTok, they're going to check out your website. And that still holds true. And so having those mechanisms in place are incredibly important. And Carla, knowing the size and scale of the environment and the firms that you work with, I think a lot of times some of the pushback I get is advisors think that automation will feel impersonal. But done well, it can actually really support more timely and relevant engagement. So, how are you seeing the firms that you work with use automation to scale responsiveness without losing that personal touch?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, automation is key. We work with offices that are large scale, but are all still independent, right? So they're not maybe a team of 300. They still might have 5 or 10 people in the office. And a lot of times in small businesses, they all wear multiple hats, which is really fun being in a small business. But then sometimes maybe you're focusing on you have clients coming in, you have 6 clients coming in, so you're focusing on that part of the business. So you don't want your marketing to go untouched for maybe 2 weeks because you're focusing on other areas. So that's where automation comes in and is key because you can build it in your workflows. And so we also work and help with our advisors in the CRM side of it. So being able to build workflows and automations and the tasks within the CRM system that trigger the campaigns, that is allowing your marketing to go and continue to run without maybe waiting 2 weeks. Also, getting in front of prospects right away is really important. If, let's say, there's a prospect out there and they're going to one of the leads that's a lead source, that lead was probably going to maybe 5 other advisors in your area. So if you're reaching out to that prospect 2 weeks later, the other 4 advisors have probably already reached out to that prospect. They probably already called them and maybe booked an appointment. So that speed to lead is very important. As soon as you get that lead or that prospect, starting that prospect right there in that campaign. And that's where we build it within the workflow. So then that you can track within the CRM system with the campaign side of that perspective there. You can always put personalized touch in there because we talked about it a little bit earlier. But with side and snappy cracking, your campaigns don't have to be general. You can have where you have the tag features so that if you wanted to say hi first name, it's going to pull in that prospect's first name. You can build the email so it feels like it's coming a one-to-one email versus being a heavily designed email where you're like, oh, this was just a mass send email. So there's a lot of opportunity to build and create the campaign that way and generate the speed to lead with the workflows.
Love that. I'm going to do a quick lightning round for you three. So I'm going to ask you to keep your answers to 30 seconds or less, which I know is very, very challenging. But one takeaway for our audience in terms of things that you're doing and you're seeing that are working. And if they were to go away and do one thing today, this afternoon, tomorrow, by the end of the week, what is that one thing that you would recommend? Dan, I'm going to start with you.
I would say I won't tell you what the one thing is because I don't know all of your operations, but pick one thing that fits within your wheelhouse. And what I mean by that is an idea that aligns to your culture and an idea that you have the operations to support, and don't do too many things. I've been guilty of trying so many things where we've had more pilots than we've had planes. And if you're doing 100 things, you're doing zero things. Pick something that the team aligns on, that they're energized around, and then you have the infrastructure and ecosystem to support it. If you try something that you can't support, it's not going to work. You're going to get demoralized about it, and you'll probably won't have the support to try something new and something different. So make sure you can do it.
Love that. Kevin, I'm going to go to you next. One takeaway for our audience. You're on mute, my friend.
Actually, the first thing I would say is just do something different, right? I mean, I'll echo what Dan said, which is don't do too many things, right? But do something different, right? And I think Snappy Kraken is different. I think that the next thing I would say is let technology do the heavy lifting for you, but be consistent in what you do. Um, I think the thing I didn't say was the advisors, we meet collectively every week, just to talk about what's working, right? So if you like in the case of Carlin or Dan, they obviously see that all the time, so they can tell other advisors what's happening. But if you're a solo advisor or you just work with a couple, connect and find out what's working. So you're not going in the wrong direction with the prospects or the clients that you do have and getting the right message out to them. So that's what I would say.
Fantastic. Last but certainly not least, Carlin, one takeaway for the audience today.
Yeah, my big takeaway that I tell every one of my clients is you're always so busy you don't even know how many systems you're using. So the first thing I always tell people is take like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and just think of how many systems that you're using to run a campaign. If you're logging into 5 different systems to build one campaign, that's a lot of work. That's a lot of maintenance, and it's not going to be repeatable. So that's where you can take a look at if I'm in 5 different systems, how can I grow and scale my business? How can I maybe use one system to do it all in one place and track those types of results? So that's my one takeaway is know what you are doing, how many systems, because there's a way and opportunity you can always bring it together in one platform.
Could not have teed me up any better. That's why you're on here. So, a lot of the systems you've heard described here today, automation, segmentation, depend on having the right infrastructure in place. And you've heard our panelists discuss their real world examples of using Sappy Kraken to create leverage and drive growth. And so, if you want to see what that actually looks like, here's a little bit of a teaser. So, not only do we have 150 pre-built campaigns, but they work together. And so things like lead generation and prospect nurturing are incredibly important. But then also those birthday emails, those timely emails, that's how you create automation at scale rather than having to do it manually yourself. You heard Dan talk about timely emails a little bit. So there's a lot going on in this world right now. Your clients and your prospects probably have a lot of questions. How does this affect my portfolio? What is your outlook on how conflict in the Middle East is going to affect markets? They deserve fast answers. And so that's really what our timely emails and our text messages are built to solve. A lot of people don't know where to start with their marketing plan. I have 3 marketing experts on the call with me, so they probably know this stuff like the back of their hand. But we do create monthly marketing plans with seasonal strategies and recommended campaigns to launch if you're feeling stuck. And you're able to customize all of it immediately. And so, one of a kind custom images, we leverage AI to create recommendations. We really want to make sure that you have the right systems in place, not just features, but really the right systems in place to grow and scale with us. And so, if you like what you heard here today and you think that you're ready to start implementing these systems, we'd be happy to walk you through it. And you can schedule a demo with us by scanning the QR code on the screen. And we'll show you more examples of how advisors are operationalizing their marketing with Sappy Kraken. So I want to say a huge thank you to Kevin and Carlin and Dan for joining me on the panel today. Thank you to everyone who came and watched the webinar and interacted, especially some fantastic questions coming out of the chat. So really appreciate it. Thank you to everyone on the call. Thank you to you 3. Have an awesome rest of your day.